From the moment I stepped into Sarah's spotless living room, I knew something was off. She stood there in her perfectly arranged world-white furniture, color-coded pillows, not a single thing out of place. But nothing prepared me for the words that burst out of her mouth the second I walked in. "Get your screaming brats out of my wedding," she shrieked, stabbing her freshly manicured finger right at my chest. Her voice echoed off the polished floors, sharp enough to slice through glass. "I will not have them ruining my perfect day with their chaos." For a moment, I just stared at her, the wedding invitation still warm in my hand. I couldn't believe my ears. My sister-in-law, the woman who pretended kindness when it suited her, had just called my kids, my sweet Emma, only 6, and little Lucas, barely 4 brats. They were at home that very moment, happily playing with their dad, completely unaware that their aunt was kicking them out of her wedding only 3 days before the ceremony. "Sarah, they're your niece and nephew," I managed, trying to keep my voice steady despite the heat rising in my chest. "The same kids you begged to be your flower girl and ring bearer months ago. The same 2 who've been practicing every day." "Well, I changed my mind," she snapped, ripping the invitation out of my hand like it offended her. "I saw how they acted at the rehearsal dinner. Running, laughing, being loud, it was humiliating. My wedding needs to be perfect, and your children will ruin everything." Images flashed through my mind, Emma twirling in her flower girl dress, proudly admiring herself in the mirror.
Lucas,
Carrying his tiny pillow around the house with the most serious expression he could make. They were genuinely excited. And Sarah was about to crush them. "They were tired," I said quietly. "It was late." "They were being children, Sarah. That's normal." "Exactly," she said, like she was proving some grand point. "I can't have children acting like children at my wedding. I've decided to make it adults only." "Well, except for Madison's kids. They know how to behave." "Of course." Madison's kids, the tablet zombies. They barely lifted their eyes from screens long enough to blink. But they were welcome. "You can't do this," I whispered, my voice finally cracking. "Emma will be heartbroken." Sarah's expression hardened into something icy and cruel. "I can, and I am. In fact," she paused, letting a cold smile stretch across her face. "Maybe you shouldn't come either. I don't want you guilt-tripping everyone about your precious little angels missing out." Before I could answer, my mother-in-law walked in carrying a box of wedding favors. "Sarah, honey, what's going on?" I heard raised voices. "Nothing, Mom," Sarah said sweetly, switching personalities like flipping a light switch. "I was just explaining to Lisa that the wedding is now adults only. We wanted to feel classy." I watched my mother-in-law's face falter for a moment before she forced a smile. Of course she took Sarah's side. She always did. "Well, if that's what you want, dear," she said. I swallowed hard. "I'll let Tom and the kids know." As I turned to leave, Sarah called out, "Oh, and don't forget to return the flower girl dress and ring bearer outfit. I need a refund since they won't be used." I froze. Those outfits, I bought those with my own money. My children had worn them with pride. "Keep them," I said without looking back. "Think of them as a wedding gift." By the time I drove home, my hands were gripping the wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I wasn't just angry, I was shaking. This wasn't about a wedding. This was about Sarah doing what she had always done, showing her power, reminding us she could hurt us whenever she wanted. Tom was in the backyard with the kids when I got home. Emma was tossing dandelion petals into the air while Lucas marched behind her with his pillow, both of them laughing. The sight hit me right in the chest. "Mommy!" Emma called, running toward me. "Look, I'm getting better at throwing them super high." I hugged her, breathing in her sweet shampoo. "You're amazing, baby." Inside, after sending them to their room to play, I told Tom everything. "She did what?"
he growled, his face darkening. "I'm calling her right now. No."
I grabbed his arm before he could storm off. "Getting angry is exactly what she wants. She wants us to look like we're the problem. Then what do we do?" he whispered. "We can't let her treat our kids like this." A slow smile formed on my face. "I have a better plan. But I'll need your help." The next morning, I made a series of very important phone calls. First to Jessica, my friend who worked at Sarah's reception venue. Then to Madison's ex-husband who'd been desperately trying to talk to her about their kid's tablet addiction. And finally to Grandma Rose, the family matriarch. Sarah had conveniently left off the wedding guest list despite Rose paying for most of the event. In 3 days, I told Tom that evening, Sarah is going to learn that actions have consequences. He looked uneasy as he read the email from Jessica confirming everything we arranged. Are you sure about this? I thought of Emma's trembling lip, Lucas's confusion, Sarah's smug expression. Oh yes, I said, I'm sure. On the morning of Sarah's wedding, the sun was shining bright. I dressed Emma in her favorite dress, not the flower girl one, which now hung untouched in her closet. Mommy, she asked, her big brown eyes soft and confused. Why are we going to the park instead of Aunt Sarah's wedding? I knelt down and fixed the bow in her hair. Because today we're having our own special adventure. And guess what? Cousin Jack and Lily will be there too. That perked her right up. But what about my flower petals? She asked, lip wobbling. We'll take some with us. You can throw them as high as you want. As Tom took the kids to the car, my phone buzzed with 3 new messages. From Jessica. Everything is set exactly how you asked. You were right about the contract. From Grandma Rose. The look on Sarah's face when she saw me walk into the church was priceless. I'll take it from here, dear. From Madison's ex. Kids are with me. They're actually talking and playing. Madison is freaking out. Perfect. Because what Sarah never bothered to check was the contract for the reception venue. I had booked it 6 months ago. My name was on every document. I had the authority to make changes. And I had made some very, very fun ones. Are you sure you don't want to see this in person? Tom asked as we drove to the park. No, I said. Jessica will record everything. I'd rather spend today with our kids. The park was glowing with blooming flowers, perfect for a day of pretend petal throwing. We set up a picnic under a huge oak tree as Emma taught Lucas how to make flower crowns. Around 4 o'clock. Just as Sarah's reception was starting, my phone buzzed again. A video. You have to see this. Jessica had written. I waited until the kids were distracted before watching. The video opened with Sarah sweeping into the reception hall in her perfect white dress, and then stopping dead. Her jaw dropped. Her groom froze beside her. Gone was the elegant, polished, adult-only heaven she had planned. Instead, the room had been transformed into a full-blown children's wonderland. Colorful balloons danced across the ceiling, cartoon cutouts decorated. Every table in a massive bounce house towered in the corner. A giant sign read, Welcome to the Family Fun RECPTIO. Every table had plastic cartoon plates, party hats, and noisemakers. Juice boxes replaced champagne. The string quartet, replaced by a beloved children's entertainer who waved cheerfully in the background. Sarah's face went from shock to horror to pure rage. This is not what we planned, she screamed at the venue manager. This is a nightmare. I'm sorry, ma'am, he said calmly. The person whose name is on the venue contract requested these changes. We are required to follow her instructions. But I'm the bride. Yes, but the contract belongs to Lisa. Sarah turned purple. She spun around, searching for me, but of course, I wasn't there. Then Grandma Rose stepped into the shot, elegant as ever in her soft blue suit, looking completely unfazed by the chaos around her. Sarah, dear, she said, her voice steady and powerful, we need to talk about your recent decisions. The video ended there, but Jessica kept the updates coming. Madison just arrived without her kids. She shaving a meltdown, half the guests loving the bounce house, the other half here, asking why your kids aren't here. Sarah tried to take down the decorations, but everything's secured with industrial string adhesive. Your mother-in-law just had to sit down. I think she's finally realizing. What Sarah did I put me fo away and join my children in the grass. Emma had made flower crowns for every own, and Lucas was carefully placing us on Tom's head. This was exactly where we needed to be later that evening after we had tucked the kids into bed. Tom showed me the flood of messages he had received from family members, most were supportive, having finally seen Sarah's true colors. A few were angry, mostly those who had been in on her plans. All along you shall never forgive you for this, he said. But he was smiling good. I replied, I'm done forgiving her for Hurting our children. My phone lit up with a final message from Jessica. Just finished cleaning up. You'll never believe what Grandma Rose did. Attached was a photo of the wedding guest book there on the first page in Grandma Rose's elegant handwriting. Was a message. Dear Sarah, today was meant to be a celebration of family instead. You should exclude the very people who represent its future. Your actions have shown method. Perhaps it's time to reconsider certain arrangements. We'll discuss this on Sunday. Dinner. Love, Grandma. I knew what that meant. Grandma Rose had been planning to sign over her vacation house at Sarah, the same house where we had all spent our summers growing up. It seemed those plans had changed. Was it worth it? Tom asked, wrapping his arms around me. I thought about Emma and Lucas, about the joy on her faces as they played in Thippurg today, unburdened by rejection or judgment, about the lesson they'd learned from this someday, that they were worth standing up for every penny. I replied. PH from Sarah's ruined wedding recipient spread through the family like wildfire. Videos of the children's parodies I created have somehow made their way to various family member social media, showing everyone exactly what had happened the next morning. My phone exploded with notifications. Sarah had posted a lengthy rant about how I destroyed her special day and traumatized her guests with the childish decorations. The comments, however, weren't quite what she'd expected. Why weren't Tema and Lucas there? Such sweet kids. Hold up, you uninvited your own niece and nephew 3 days before shooting those party decorations. Look amazing. My kids would have loved that balloon. Sarah had deleted the post. My mother-in-law called around dinner time, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. Lisa, I need to apologize. I should have said something when Sarah uninvited the kids. I just didn't want to cause dramano. I replied calmly, watching Emma and Lucas playing in the backyard through the kitchen window. You didn't want toasting up to Sarah. There's a difference. She was quiet for a moment. You're right, I've enabled her behavior for too long, but after what Grandma Rose said at the reception. Ah yes, Grandma Rose, according to Jessica, after that first message. Inf guest book, our family matriarch had spent the entire reception sharing stories about Sarah's childhood tantrums and pattern of cruel behavior. By the time she finished, several guests had left early, muttering about family values and poor leadership. What exactly did Grandma Rose say? I asked, genuinely curious. My mother-in-law sighed. She announced that the vacation house would be going to you, and Tom instead said something about needing it to be in the hands of people who understand family values. I hadn't expected that the vacation house had been a point of contention for years, with Sarah constantly reminding everyone how she'd be turning it into a luxury rental property once she inherited it. Sarah's furious, of course. My mother-in-law continued. She and her husband had already started looking at property management companies. That's not me problem, I replied, just like my children's feelings weren't her problem. The next Sunday dinner at Grandma Rose was interesting, to say the least. Sarah and her new husband didn't show up. Everyone else did, including Madison's ex-husband, with their kids who were actually engaging in conversation instead of staring at screens. Our Rose took me aside after dinner, her eyes twinkling. I saw the video of what you did at the reception, she said. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I couldn't let her hurt my kids like that, I explained. Shep patted my hand. Of course not. That's sexically why you're getting the house. Family means protecting each other, not tearing each other down. Sarah never understood that 2 weeks later we received a formal letter from Sarah's lawyer demanding compensation for Herond reception. I forwarded it to my own lawyer along with the venue contract in my name and documentation of Sarah's last minute guest list changes. His response was succinct. She doesn't have a leg to stand on. The venue was legally yours to modify. Sarah's next move was to try turning family against me through a series of emotional social media posts about toxic family members and narcissistic sisters-in-law, but the tide had turned. People had seen her true colors and they weren't backing down. This time Em and Lucas thankfully remained largely unaware of the drama we told them. And Sarah had to change her wedding plans, and they moved on with the resiliently children possessed the flower girl dress and ring bearer outfit. We're carefully packed away, not as painful minders but as evidence of a lesson learned about standing up for what's right. 3 months after the wedding, we hosted our first family gathering at the vacation house. Sarah wasn't there, of course, but the place was filled with laughter and joy. Children ran through the halls, played in the yard, and Yasmin noise, because that's what children do. As I watched Emma teaching her cousins how to make flower crowns on the beach, the same skill she perfected that day in the park. Tom came up beside Mayuno, he said, wrapping an arm around me shoulders. Sarah called me yesterday, said she's ready to forgive. You asked if we agree to sell her the vacation house Elad, and what did you say? I told her that some things aren't for sale, like core children's dignity, for instance, looking at our kids playing on the beach, the family finally free from Sarah's manipulation. I knew we'd made the right choice. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about creating something better from the ashes of Sami and Elsa's cruelty. Mom. Emma called from the beach, come see, we make crowns for everyone, as I walked down to join them, leaving thoughts of Sarah and her perfect wedding behind. I couldn't help but smile. Our children would grow up knowing they were valued, protected, and worth standing up for. And in the end, it was worth more than any wedding, any house, or any relationship built on conditional love. The flower crowns we wore that day weren't made of expensive roses or carefully curated blooms. They were made of wild beach flowers, a little crooked, a little messy, but absolutely perfect, just like family should be.